Imagine holding a discovery in your hands worth nearly 7 billion of today's dollars. It's a sum that could change your life, your children's lives, and your children's children's lives forever. In 1955, one man found himself facing this exact choice: cash in on an unimaginable fortune or give his discovery to the world. His decision not only saved millions of lives, but literally shocked the planet. This is the story of Jonas Salk, the man who defeated a monster and said no to the money. To understand the magnitude of his gesture, we have to take a step back. Not that far, but it seems like another world, the 1950s, an era of rebirth, rock and roll, and post-war optimism. But every summer, a shadow crept over the cities, bringing with it a silent, invisible terror. Its name was polio. It wasn't an enemy you could see. It hid in the water, in a cough, in a sneeze. It struck suddenly, and its favorite victims were children. For every parent, the nightmare began with symptoms that seemed trivial: a bit of fever, fatigue, a headache. But then, in a small but terrifying percentage of cases, the virus attacked the nervous system. Imagine the panic. Public pools were closed, movie theaters asked people not to sit too close, and birthday parties were canceled. Fear was a constant companion because the consequences were devastating. Children who were running happily one day were paralyzed the next. For the most unfortunate, the virus struck the respiratory muscles, condemning them to live inside grotesque machines, iron lungs, metal cylinders that breathed for them. In 1952 alone, the worst year in U.S. history, polio infected nearly 58,000 people, killed over 3,000, and left more than 21,000 permanently paralyzed. Medicine was powerless. The world wasn't just looking for a hero, it was begging for a miracle. And it didn't know that the man destined to answer that prayer was already at work in a modest laboratory in Pittsburgh. Jonas Salk's story doesn't begin with wealth and privilege. Born on October 28, 1914, in New York City, he was the eldest of 3 sons of Russian Jewish immigrants, Daniel and Dora, who, despite having no formal education, firmly believed in the power of knowledge. Growing up on the streets of East Harlem and the Bronx, Jonas was a serious, determined boy and the first in his family to go to college. He enrolled at the City College of New York, an institution that offered free education to the deserving, a lifeline for immigrant families. He considered studying law, but it was his mother who pushed him toward medicine. He entered New York University School of Medicine, a significant choice because, unlike many other universities at the time, it did not discriminate against Jewish students. It was there that he found his true calling. It wasn't so much the care of individual patients that fascinated him, but the idea of using science to help humanity on a large scale. Guided by his mentor, virologist Thomas Francis Jr., he specialized in a field that would become the key to everything: immunology based on killed viruses. During World War II, Salk and Francis successfully developed a flu vaccine for the Army, proving that an inactivated virus could train the immune system without causing the disease. This experience was his guiding star. While much of the scientific community was convinced that only a live, weakened virus could defeat polio, Salk knew there was another, safer path. In 1947, Salk became the head of his own virus research lab at the University of Pittsburgh. His work caught the attention of the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, known today as the March of Dimes. This foundation, created by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, himself a famous victim of polio, was raising millions of dollars from the American people, dime by dime, to fund research. And it was this foundation that gave him the resources to begin his true mission: to defeat polio. The road to the vaccine wasn't a stroke of genius, but a grueling marathon. Years of tireless work in his Pittsburgh lab, which had become the headquarters of a war against a microscopic enemy. The first challenge was scientific. Salk and his team had to grow the virus in the lab, identify its 3 strains, and then find a way to kill them with formaldehyde. It was a delicate balance. Too much formaldehyde and the vaccine was useless. Too little, and the vaccine itself could cause the disease. While the academic world remained skeptical of his killed virus theory, Salk pressed on. After successfully testing the vaccine on monkeys, the moment for the bravest test arrived. With absolute confidence in his work, he did something that would be unthinkable today. He tested the vaccine on himself. And not only that, he injected his wife and their children. They were the first humans to receive the serum that carried the hopes of an entire generation. They all developed antibodies with no adverse reactions. But it wasn't enough. To prove to the world that the vaccine was safe, a trial on a scale never seen before was needed. In 1954, the largest clinical trial in history began. About 1.8 million children, the polio pioneers, participated. In a double-blind experiment, half of them were given the vaccine, the other half a placebo. No one, not even the doctors, knew who was receiving what. The fate of millions hung on the results of that gigantic gamble. The entire nation simply held its breath. On April 12, 1955, the world stood still. At a press conference at the University of Michigan, Dr. Thomas Francis, Salk's old mentor, took the stage to announce the results. The atmosphere was electric. After a wait that felt like an eternity, Francis uttered the words everyone had dreamed of hearing. The vaccine was safe, effective, and potent. It was an explosion of collective joy. Church bells rang, people took to the streets to celebrate, and parents wept with relief. Jonas Salk, once a simple researcher, had become a global hero. In a single day, he had freed the world from a decade-long fear. Polio cases plummeted. In the United States, the annual average of over 45,000 cases in the preceding years dropped to just 910 by 1962. Pharmaceutical companies were ready to shower him with gold. Everyone assumed that Salk would patent the formula, securing a fortune estimated, as mentioned, at around $7 billion today. Shortly after the announcement, during an interview with the celebrated journalist Edward R. Murrow, the million-dollar question came. Murrow asked Salk, almost nonchalantly, "Who owns the patent on this vaccine?" The world expected a complex answer, but Salk's reply was of such powerful simplicity that it went down in history. He looked at the journalist and, in a calm voice, said, "Well, the people, I would say. There is no patent." He paused and then added the phrase that would make him immortal. "Could you patent the sun?" With those few words, Jonas Salk gave up a fortune to ensure his vaccine would be accessible to everyone, as affordably as possible. For him, the discovery was not his property, but a gift to humanity, funded by the donations of millions of ordinary people. Stories of altruism like this deserve to be told. Salk's decision was a philosophical statement. In a world already rushing toward the commercialization of health, he drew a line in the sand. Science must serve the common good. His work, however, didn't stop there. A few years later, an oral vaccine developed by Albert Sabin became the primary tool in many global eradication campaigns. But it was Salk who created the breakthrough, who proved the monster could be defeated. In 1963, Salk founded the Salk Institute for Biological Studies in California, a place where scientists could collaborate freely to solve the great mysteries of life. In his final years, he dedicated himself to the search for an HIV vaccine, continuing his fight until the end. Jonas Salk died on June 23, 1995, at the age of 80. He never received the Nobel Prize, an omission many still consider an injustice today. But he received something greater, the eternal gratitude of millions of people in a place in history. His legacy lies not only in the near total disappearance of polio, but in a question that resonates even more strongly today. Who owns progress? Who owns hope? Jonas Salk didn't just defeat a disease, he reminded us that the greatest patent is not a formula, but humanity itself.